Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we continue with the Belmont Saga, Part 2, Chapter 14, A Question of Occupation. So last week, we met Paymaster Stenstrom's girlfriend, Lillian of Gamboa, and how she had been invited to Belmont Manor to meet Lord Stenstrom by his mother several times, and due to his ongoing contest where she told him to confound and mystify and thwart her efforts to control him, sort of like Inspector Clouseau and his butler or his housekeeper Cato, where Inspector Clouseau told Cato to try to kill him at every opportunity so he could keep his survival skills sharpened. Same sort of thing. Stenstrom works hard to thwart his mother's efforts, and especially in her efforts to locate him a bride. That's one of her favorite things to do. She did it with a lot of his sisters, and she's doing it again with him. And she kept inviting this girl from across the marshes in central Esther named Lillian of Gamboa, and he kept go to the Chalk House. A Chalk House is like a ballroom. It's on the grounds of Belmont Manor. It's a very nice place by the lane, getting towards the sea, right in the shadow of Marion Hill. And she would go in there and wait, and he was supposed to go in there, and they would talk and see if a rapport was struck. But he would intentionally just leave her sitting in there because, again, his contest with his mother. And she, first time it happened, second time it happened, this time she was pissed and started writing letters, letting everyone know how the House of Belmont, South Tyrol, sucks. Well, apparently, she decided to come for a third time, and this time, Lady Jubilee was determined to get him in there, and while walking the grounds with his father on one of his rare visits home, the skies darken, a fog wafts up, and then from nowhere, a strange, stinking creek appears, and in the stinking creek is a giant demonic catfish that has been promised his flesh. And it chases him into the Chalk House where he meets Lillian of Gamboa at last, but she's a little miffed at being ignored 2 times previous, and she draws a sword on him and challenges him to a friendly duel. The demon barges in, hungry for his flesh, and decides to try to eat her as well. They fight the demon off and send it back to hell where it belongs. And after that, they sort of warmed to each other. They had a shared experience, the air has been cleared, and they grew to like each other very quickly. And as the years progressed, Stenstrom wanted to extend Lily his hand, and in the league, that means it's basically a proposal. I extend you my hand, and if you take it, then we are engaged. And then you're supposed to announce yourself publicly to the league in a ball or cotillion or some sort of public gathering if many people have been invited, and you say, I have extended my hand to this person, Lillian of Gamboa. And everyone claps, and then the wedding preparations can begin in earnest. However, Lily, though she clearly loves Stenstrom, she says as much, says, I can't accept. We're too young. I don't want to do anything impulsive. I would love to take your hand and be your wife, but we need to be sure. We need to see the league and make sure we're not being hasty. So she demands 5 years. Say 5 years, and you can go and do what you want, and I can go do what I want. We'll see what's out there, and if at the end of 5 years we're still feeling the same way about each other, then yeah, let's get married. And Stenstrom is rather stung by this. He also confronts his mother, says that, why do you really have to send demons after my soul? And she's like, well, I didn't send any demons after your soul. And Lady Jubilee is a lot of things, but a liar isn't one of them. So if she had summoned a demon to tear his soul apart and consume his flesh, then she would have readily admitted it. But she says, I wouldn't summon a demon to come get you. So the question remains that you should be asking right now, who summoned the demon? Also, that fateful morning that he met Lily, which happened to be on St. Porter's Day, His ints were missing from their box, so he didn't have his handy-dandy kill-all weapons. They can just take care of the demon straight away. He didn't have his pistols. So it means he had to either go in the chalk house and see Lily or fight the demon, which kind of both things happened eventually. But so who took his guns? And who summoned the demon? I don't know. It's a mystery. Today, a very, very humorous chapter coming up. Part 3, Chapter 14, A Question of Occupation. And I find this chapter very humorous. And it's not very long, so if we get done with it quick enough, we will proceed to Chapter 15, Favored of the Sisters. So let's begin immediately, see if we can get both of these chapters knocked out. We are pretty much right in the middle of this grand aside in Sands of the Solar Empire into the past of Paymaster Stenstrom. Just great big thing, as some people chose to call it, right in the middle of this action book. We're pretty much right in the center of the great big thing. So let's proceed immediately. Part 2, Chapter 14, A Question of Occupation. There was an unspoken disconnect rumbling about Belmont Manor. It had been there for years and was largely and wisely undiscussed. The disconnect. What sort of occupation would Stenstrom the Younger be allowed to pursue as he matured into a young man? Such a topic was new around the house, with Stenstrom being the only son of Belmont. Lady Jubilee assumed that all of her daughters would simply become ladies, countesses, and socialites, like she was. Only a few of her daughters, Lady Celesta and Nylar, for example, and more recently Lady Lyra, had openly antagonized Lady Jubilee on the matter, and promptly found themselves outside in the moonlit garden, under the knife. As for Lord Stenstrom the Younger, clearly his father wanted him to join the fleet, and clearly Lady Jubilee did not. Lord Stenstrom, at one time, was rather keen on the idea. He sent his young son all sorts of fleet memorabilia to fill his thoughts, and spun grand tales of his adventures when he was in attendance at home, both Stenstrom and Lyra soaking them up eagerly. Lady Jubilee frowned on the subject, her hatred of the fleet most clear. To further push the matter, Captain Stenstrom took his son on a trip to Onaris aboard his vessel, the Caroline, when he was 9, his first trip into space. It was just a quick run to gather supplies, a great task warbirds normally didn't partake in. However, Captain Stenstrom was eager for a chance to take his son out on a brief introductory spin around the stars. He hoped more would follow. Stenstrom the Younger was intoxicated with the whole thing. The launch from Ester Bay, listening to his father command the ship, barking out orders, and watching the bridge crew follow them without pause or question. Sitting in his office, the ship under full sail, he looked out the window at the dark gallery of space moving by. "Do you see that great glowing thread stretching off into the distance, my son?" he asked. "I do, father," Stenstrom the Younger said, his face pushed up against the glass. "What is it?" "It's a cloud of gas called Drury's Belt. Just a harmless oddity one finds while at sea. There are many such things, each more wondrous than the previous, all just waiting to be discovered." "When will we arrive at Onaris?" Stenstrom the Younger asked. "Oh, in just a few hours." "What's out there?" "Here? Nothing. Just a bit of empty space between Cana and Onaris. Pay it no mind. There's nothing out there except Drury's Belt and some drifting ice." When they returned to Tyrol, Lady Jubilee was incensed, and though she was missing her usual cigarette, she smoked nonetheless. That was the first time he'd ever heard his parents engage in a bitter, shouting argument, their voices exchanging back and forth through the halls of the old monastery, he covering his ears so as not to hear the hurtful words being hurled at each other. As time passed, Stenstrom the Older's zeal diminished a bit. He never saw his son wearing any of the clothes he sent home to him, never saw him playing with the toys and models he'd bought. Perhaps he really didn't have an interest in it after all. So, what was he to do? He was getting older, and the question could be ignored no longer. The question of Stenstrom's future occupation, the thing Lord Stenstrom and Lady Jubilee had always avoided discussing at any length, finally came to a boil one day when Stenstrom the Younger was 17. Lord Stenstrom again took his son for a ride to Onaris, this time bringing Lady Lyra along as well. As he had when he was younger, Stenstrom was full of excitement. So was Lyra. This time, Lord Stenstrom put it to them directly. So, would either of you like to join the fleet? Sail the stars with your old man? There is a place waiting for either or both of you. Many clamber for such an opportunity. I beg you not to waste it. Both of them looked at each other and respectfully said no. But why? You both seem to love it. I don't understand. Stenstrom the Younger spoke up. My mother will not allow it, and has seen to it. Ah, Stenstrom the Older now understood. They returned to Belmont Manor the next day. It was time of the yearly reasoning, when a league auditor from the city of Armenelos came to check the House of Belmont's assets and determine if enough tax had been paid. It was a dreary and sometimes infuriating exercise to have to go through. The auditor, a Lord Bellamy of Cough, a small meek man from the League office, sat there going through all of House Belmont's assets, as Lady Jubilee and Lord Stenstrom had a raging fight all around him. I have told you that our son will not join the fleet and have nothing to do with it. I have made that most clear, have I not? She shouted. They call you Stenstrom the Brave. Instead, they should call you Stenstrom the Deaf, or Stenstrom the Forgetful. He returned the favor. Well, how about these appellations, madam? Stenstrom the Pained, Stenstrom the Encumbered, and Stenstrom the Determined. Jubilee, you cannot protect our son so. He has all of the tools needed to be a fine officer in the fleet, and should be permitted to make his own choices as he sees fit. He loved his trip to Onaris. He has a passion for faring the stars, just as I do. I know he does. We are under Weirgild. The Weirgild is suspended and has been for years. There is glory to be had for him in the fleet, and death and destruction and pain for his mother. You are talking nonsense. Lord Cough continued checking his papers, trying to blend in with the tabletop. In all his travels, he'd clearly never seen a lord and lady behave so. He has a world full of choices before him, just not the fleet, not the stars. I forbid it. And additionally, I have set him to the blood promise. He has promised not to join the fleet. Ah, so there it was. She and her damned rituals, her superstitions. Stenstrom slammed his hand down at the table, causing Lord Cough's terminal to jump. That is a piece of Tyrol nonsense. How could you do such a thing to our son? He roared. I have protected our children from all that may harm them. I have stood guard over their souls, and the blood promise is part of that protection. It is my guarantee. It's Tyrol nonsense. Tyrol nonsense, is it? I should turn you into a fly and swat you flat right now for your temerity, Jubilee shouted back. Well, I wish you would, I truly do. You have been threatening to transform me into this creature or that for years. Go ahead. Do it. End my suffering. Amid this thunderstorm, Lord Cough meekly spoke up. My lord, might I command your attention for a moment? Lady Jubilee turned her fury to Lord Cough, her eyes smoldering. You, she spat. What in the name of creation do you want? Lord Cough trembled under her gaze. My lady, I have some figures here I would like to go over with you. I feel, and the data support it, that there has been an underpayment to the League. An underpayment? Yes, great lady. An underpayment? Lord Stenstrom approached and looked at Lord Cough's figures. He threw his hands up. Yes, I agree. I will authorize a payment to you, Lord Cough, this very moment. His gaze went to Lady Jubilee. I will go and get the funds. I find the company in this room fairly distasteful at present. Lady Jubilee watched him exit and lit a fresh cigarette. Lord Cough tapped his keys. I certainly hope Lord Belmont understands there shall be an additional fee and penalty for the tardy nature of the payment. Lady Jubilee appeared not to care about taxes and money at the moment. The hallmark of any sound relationship, Lord Cough, is the ability to fight with vigor with the one you love and make up for it later. Would you not agree? Well, She began to choke up a little and pulled from her cigarette to hide it. We often fight about this and that and never fail to properly make up. This time will be no different. I love that man. Cherish him. That's why I act as I do. He and our children. That's why I care so much. She pulled herself from her reflections and she turned back to Lord Cough. She looked at the little man sitting there with his terminal and papers, and she sneered with disdain. You, sir, are an accountant, correct? Yes, great lady. I am a fully accredited accountant for the League and a proud member of the Ibana Brotherhood. Truth be told, how nice. And this banana organization you mentioned, is that some sort of accountant gathering? Yes? Ibana, great lady, and yes, it is a proud brotherhood of accountants and other similar occupations. I see. And have you ever been shot at, Lord Cough? What? Shot at? No, great lady. Have you ever faced death in space? In space? No, great lady. Has an accountant ever died of botulism? What? Well, She leaned down and gritted her teeth. And do you not believe that I could turn you into a fly, should I choose to do so? Lord Cough sweated. I do not know, a great lady. Jubilee intimidated Lord Cough for a few minutes more. Then Lord Stenstrom returned with a chest of coins. An accountant, she declared as Lord Stenstrom sorted through the coins. Our son shall become an accountant and join the... Jubilee snapped her fingers in Lord Cough's face. What is the name of that insipid brotherhood you grovel in fealty to, sir? What? The Ibana? Is that what you're referring to? I do not grovel. Yes, the banana. Our son shall belong to such an organization and elevate it to new heights. Jubilee pointed at Lord Cough. Just like this insignificant little man sitting right here, and to ensure such a thing, I shall put him to the promise. Lord Cough was open-mouthed in outrage. Insignificant? He sputtered. Stenstrom threw down the chest. You will force our son into mediocrity? You will force upon him the life of a faceless hack? Mediocrity? Cough shouted with indignation. Faceless hack? If it ensures a long, uneventful life for our son, then yes, I will. Lord Cough, a partially forgotten man in the midst of this row, opened his coat and pulled out a hollow pedestal. He set it on the table and turned it on. Soon the flickering images of a number of young people began floating about the room. I will have you know, great Lady Jubilee, that I am the proud father of 15 wonderful children. I am not insignificant. Nor am I a faceless hack! Jubilee stopped shouting at her husband and looked at the smiling images orbiting about his head. I see, she said, studying them. And did you have any children that lived, Lord Cough? Lady Jubilee! Lord Stenstrom said aghast, dropping his coins. Where are your manners? Manners be damned. Behold these tawdry waifs, with naught to look at but this man's bald head as he stumbles home after yet another uneventful day. At least they may expect no harm to come to their father, pitiful as he may be. That is what I crave for our son, a simple, uneventful life, free of danger, and that by creation is what he shall have. And with that, we conclude part 3, chapter 14, a question of occupation. I'm sorry. It's bad form for an author to laugh at their own stuff, but I find this exchange incredibly funny. Lord Stenstrom and Lady Jubilee are having an argument about what their son is going to do with the rest of his life, what sort of occupation he will pursue. Clearly, Lord Stenstrom, the older, wants Stenstrom and Lyra and any other of their daughters who would like to join the fleet to join him in the stars and pursue a crew in that fashion. And he tried over the years to get them interested, and they seemed to like it, but he would never see them playing with the models he sent home or wearing the clothes he'd sent. And then he finds out Lady Jubilee has stuck a knife in their chest and made him promise not to do such a thing, and he was understandably quite pissed. And while they're getting audited by a league accountant, Lord Cough, this poor little bald guy who's just sitting there enduring this argument that's raging all around him, and then they start lambasting him, not necessarily intentionally, but these are blue lords, and Lord Cough is not of their station, so they sort of just talk about him while he's sitting right there. It's just sort of what happens in the league. And they're like, I want our son to be an insignificant little man just like this guy here, a faceless hack. And he's suitably outraged. I'm not a faceless hack, bitch. I'm sure he would love to have said that, but he didn't. And Jubilee gets it in her head that being an accountant is a nice, safe, uneventful job that Stenstrom can do and not have to worry about bad things happening to him necessarily. So once Lady Jubilee gets something in her head, it's there, and you can bet at some point she's going to be dragging him back out into the garden and give him the knife and make him promise, you will become an accountant, my son. God damn it. You hear what I mean? Do you hear what I'm saying? That's probably going to happen at some point. As that done, I had a good chuckle at my own stuff. Again, bad form. I should probably delete this so you'll never hear it. But I don't know. I just think it's funny. Call me what you will. Let's go ahead and move on. Chapter 15. Favored of the Sisters. So we're going to get another few glimpses into Stenstrom's developmental period here. And his odd relationship with the sisters will become crystal clear. Let's proceed immediately. Part 2, chapter 15, Favored of the Sisters. Shortly after the big row with Lord Stenstrom, Lady Jubilee was distressed to learn that a contingent of sisters was coming west from Valenhelm to pay her a visit. The sisters always made her nervous. What did they want? More importantly, what did they know? Their intentions soon became clear. With Lady Jubilee and Stenstrom the Younger sitting in the parlor, a group of 10 sisters laid it out for them with uncharacteristic haste and frankness. The sisters didn't seem to care about Lady Jubilee at all. It was her son that they were interested in. We have watched your growth, Lord Stenstrom, with great interest. You have matured into an admirable young man, the prim marine said for a sister. Thank you, great sister. We shall be blunt. as we are certain your time is short, as is ours. We wish you to participate in our program, sir. You have been found to be of fine lineage, and you would honor us with your participation." Stenstrom was nervous. He knew of the sisters' program where they invited select males throughout the league to inseminate fertile sisters. He'd heard it was a complicated procedure requiring many visits and a lengthy negotiation, and to be selected was an honor. He didn't feel honored. He felt rushed and on the spot. He looked to his mother. Mother, This request does not concern your mother, the great Lady Jubilee. She has no say in your response, either yes or no. Please refer to us with your answers." Stenstrom didn't know what to say or do. Jubilee spoke up. "Sisters, this is most irregular. Normally, a house may expect a reception and proper sitting before. This is hardly regular, Lady Jubilee. Do not forget that it was we who saved your son's life on repeated occasions. We expect a small recompense for our assistance." Lady Jubilee, forgotten, they gazed at Stenstrom. "We require an answer, sir. The matter is completely voluntary, and you shall not offend us in any case. Therefore, what say you?" Stenstrom wanted his mother to answer, Perhaps I'm a bit too young. I might better serve you in a year or so when I am more mature." "You are optimally mature at present, Lord Belmont, hence our presence here in your wonderful home. Again, what is your answer?" Their eyes bored into him. He swallowed. Regretfully, we certainly hope you will accept our offer. We would leave here most disappointed otherwise. We would not wish to have to investigate your mother's doings at length. It would pain us to discover that she was engaging in anything forbidden." Lady Jubilee stood. "Do not threaten my son. I care not what you do to me. My son is—" "Sit down," the Marine said in a quiet but commanding tone, the sister's eyes flaring. Jubilee sat, unable to match the iron wall of their will. Stenstrom, fearing for his mother, spoke. "Yes, great sisters, I accept." Jubilee was panicked. "Belle, don't. I accept, please. I shall participate." The sisters were silent a moment. Then, "We are most pleased." Stenstrom felt awkward. "I'm not informed regarding what shall happen next. I do not know what is expected of me. Who am I to assist in this matter?" The sisters smiled. "Why, all of us, Lord Belmont. 'Tis a great honor we pay you, and you need fear not. We shall handle this and take a good treatment of you." They turned to Lady Jubilee. "Get out," the Marine said. Lady Jubilee was silent and rather helpless in her own home. There was nothing she could do. She stood and left the parlor. The sisters then took command of Lord Stenstrom, rendering him helpless within his own body. He had a vague memory of being led into a guest bedroom. He remembered something about being pushed against a wall and strong arms around him and the softness of heated skin pressed against his. He thought he recalled the sting of primal release over and over. And when it was finished, they left as quickly as they came. But it wouldn't be long before they returned, again and again, a room full of sisters demanding servicing. Always the same. Always the implied threats. They come all the time, Lily. What am I supposed to do? Lily sat there with him in the moonlight, her arms around him. Isn't participating in the Sisters program a great honor? Well, yes, so I'm told, but this many times? And they threaten my mother if I show the slightest inclination to resist. Lily thought a bit. Well, obviously you have something they desperately want. There have been instances in the past where the Sisters have taken a particular shine to certain League men. Why is not plainly clear. The Sisters are certainly inscrutable. But it seems to me that if you weren't here anymore, they might leave you and your mother alone. Well, what do you mean? I mean, even the Sisters are supposed to conform with social protocols. Having you service them so often is actually violating some of those protocols. They are supposed to spread it around, if you follow my meaning, and they are supposed to schedule their program over several visits, not just show up unannounced and demand servicing. I'm afraid with you hidden behind the walls of Belmont Manor and out of the League's eye, they may do as they please. So what am I to do? I think it's time you left home, Belle. Get out and see the world. If you were out in public and not secluded at home, the Sisters would have a much harder time getting to you. Out in the public, you are protected. The Sisters couldn't simply ride in and take you whenever they want. Well, what sort of public place? Well, school. University. There are many to choose from. Well, I don't want to go to school, Lily. According to Mother, the only course of study I'm permitted to follow is accounting, and that sounds like a slow death to me. Really, does your mother dominate you so? Stenstrom looked at his chest and remembered the searing knife that was plunged into it. You will study nothing in the schools but accounting. Well, yes, Lily, it does. Your course of study is really quite pointless, Belle. What difference will it make? Go to school and study accounting. Do as little as possible to pass your courses. If the subject matter bores you, there you shall be out in public and shielded from the Sisters. Additionally, I really think you need to blossom as a person. You are secluded in here in this manner. You see nobody. You talk to no one other than your parents and your sisters and me. You need to get out and interact. School's great for that. Why don't you come to school with me? Well, shall we go over this again, Belle? We have our 5 years. They have just begun. But fear not, I will come to see you often, and I shall write constantly. Our hearts will not be far. And with that, we conclude Part 2, Chapter 15. What is the name of it again? I forget. A favorite of the Sisters. So we see the Sisters forcefully showing up at Belmont Manor and demanding that he participate in their program. He's basically has to impregnate them. And the Sisters program is a very time-honored and protocol-based thing. If the Sisters want a gentleman to participate, there's usually a lot of sitting and chatting and talking and schedule making and appointments and whatnot. The Sisters come to the house and make their intentions known, and then there's a parlay of some sort. And it doesn't really matter if the man is old or young, if he's married or single, they don't really care. But usually if they're married and established and have children, and the Sisters want this person to participate, then they have to cough up usually a dowry of some sort, a reward for the participation. It's considered a great honor, and remember, programmability, which is based on how many times you've had sex with a sister, is an important thing. If you have a good programmability, like Captain Davidge, you can go far in the League. If you have a crappy or non-existent programmability, like Lord Aram, who is Ventinome or untouchable, your prospects are limited. It's all because of how many times you've had sex with a sister. It's kind of a weird thing, but you see how the League, even though it appears to be male-dominated on the surface, is actually run with a pretty tight fist by the sisters. They can pretty much do whatever they want, whenever they want. And they're showing up at Belmont Manor all the time. And it's not just one. They show up 20 at a time and take him into a back room and then take him. They usually flood his mind. So they're really doing all the work. It's not a very romantic thing at all. And you could kind of call this, I guess, in the modern environment, he's not really he consented because he doesn't want them to investigate his mother and throw her in prison or worse. So he gives his tacit consent, but he's basically, to some extent, being forced to have sex with the sisters. It's not really a cool thing, but that's just part of League culture. It's just part of daily life. And again, it's usually considered quite an honor. And it's, again, I always say it's voluntary, but there's repercussions if you choose not to participate. And that's a fact. He laments his fate to Lily, who's like, they're always over here and they're always dragging me into a bedroom and I'm impregnating 10 and 20 at a time. They're doing all the work. I barely remember it. They just fill up my mind full of crap. And when they're gone, that's it. Not even a goodbye card, not a goodbye kiss, not a drink, nothing. Just poof, gone. And then they come back again. And so he's probably had sex with 60 to 70 sisters at this point. And that is an incredible amount. That's known as the Pell programmability. And it's like a legendary status. It means the sisters just love you for whatever reason. And with that sort of programmability, you can write your own ticket. You can do whatever you want, basically. No matter what you want to do, whether you have any knowledge or skill in it, you can do it in the League. That's just the way it is. And then Lily recommends that he get out of Belmont Manor, because back there behind closed walls, the sisters can pretty much do what they want. But if he's out in public, the sisters have to at least abide by a veneer of civility. They wouldn't be able to get at him quite as often. They would have to actually make appointments and schedules and blah, blah, blah. And if people see them going to the same well over and over again for programmability, people start to talk and appearances are everything. You don't want your people who you've basically ruled over with an iron fist to start questioning things. It wouldn't be good form. So Lily recommends he go to school, but Stenstrom's really not interested because his mother put him to the knife, as I mentioned, between the chapters. And she said, if you ever go to the universities or the schools, you will study to be an accountant. And that sounds like a slow death for him, but that is exactly what's going to happen. In the next chapter, part 2, chapter 16, The Astral Traveler, we see Stenstrom's first hesitant steps out of Belmont Manor and in the public circle as he begins college life. There will be 2 chapters specifically covering that period of his life, so we have that to look forward to. The next one is The Astral Traveler, so we'll see what's up with that next week. Until then, this is Ren Presents. I am your host, Ren. Peace out.